Yeah. You're obviously not an American. We love to not think. But you know, I used to do a show called Politically Incorrect back in the 90s, and oh, thank you. Oh, the 90s, we remember them. And so I was always asked, what is your definition of political correctness? And I had to come up with one. I said, it's the elevation of sensitivity over truth, which seems like what it still is, except it's worse than ever.
It's more like the elevation of moral posturing about sensitivity over truth. It's even worse.
Yeah. So where did it come from? How did we get to this place where we're so fragile, the safe space people?
Oh, I think that you can pretty much blame it on the universities. I think that they've pursued, especially in the humanities and in the social sciences as well, they've pursued a policy of a radical leftist policy with an overlay of postmodernism, which kind of a literary criticism approach that's produced all of this. As far as I can tell, I think you can lay a lot of it at the feet of faculties like the faculties of education. There was an article in the Chronicle of Higher Education this week that just devastated the faculties of education, taking them to task for low academic standards and for possession by ideology and for basically indoctrinating people in a cult-like manner and playing identity politics and group identity.
And no free speech.
In this segment, Jordan Peterson and Bill Maher explore the controversial topic of political correctness, criticizing its emphasis on sensitivity at the expense of truth. They contend that the cultural shift toward avoiding offense and prioritizing emotional comfort undermines open dialogue and intellectual honesty. Peterson highlights universities, particularly the humanities and social sciences, as breeding grounds for this trend, blaming the influence of ideologically driven postmodernism. Together, they argue that this environment suppresses free speech and discourages the candid exchange of ideas necessary for societal progress. The irony lies in the fact that Bill's audience largely consists of the very individuals Jordan critiques. Does this lead to a clash of perspectives? Let's find out in the video.
Yeah, well, the timing.
This crowd likes it, but I mean, it's nasty. And they're considering suspending her. And here's what the president of the university said. He said, this was beyond free speech. This was disrespectful. Have we lost the thread back to knowing what free speech is? Yes, it can be disrespectful. That is covered under free speech. President of Fresno, you idiot. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Well, and you see this too. I think where it's manifesting itself in a particularly appalling manner is in the increasing unwillingness of comedians, for example, to go on university campuses to be funny.
Jordan Peterson and Bill Maher argue that free speech inherently includes the potential to offend and caution against the growing trend of labeling offensive remarks as violations of free speech. They assert that this misinterpretation undermines the fundamental purpose of free speech, which exists to protect all forms of expression, especially those that challenge or provoke. Both contend that conflating disrespect with a breach of free speech principles reflects a misunderstanding of the First Amendment, which safeguards speech from government censorship, not from societal critique. They emphasize the importance of distinguishing between speech, even if controversial and harmful actions, warning that blurring this line can lead to overreach and the suppression of dissenting ideas. Peterson and Maher believe that avoiding offense at all costs creates a self-censoring culture that stifles intellectual progress and open dialogue, which are essential for societal growth. They point to the influence of postmodern ideologies, particularly in academia, which prioritize emotional comfort over truth, as a key driver of this trend. Ultimately, they advocate for a robust defense of free speech, even when it is uncomfortable, as it ensures the preservation of democratic discourse and the free exchange of ideas.
Well, there's also this idea that's promoted by the people who are protecting those who are easily offended, that the way to make people secure is to protect them from things that they don't want to encounter. And there isn't a clinician, like I'm a trained clinical psychologist, and there isn't a clinician in the country who's worth his or her salt that would ever make that claim. Because you don't make people, first of all, it's hard to make people safe because life is seriously not safe.
Yes.
And the way that you make people resilient is by exposing them to things that they're afraid of and that make them uncomfortable voluntarily, but you use exposure.
Right.
And And so, like, if you over coddle people, if you protect them from everything that's sharp, you make them dull and stupid and narcissistic, and it's a really bad idea.
So you do know America.
Jordan Peterson critiques the concept of safe spaces where individuals are shielded from offensive or challenging ideas, arguing that such environments do more harm than good by fostering fragility rather than resilience. He emphasizes that personal and intellectual growth is achieved through exposure to uncomfortable or difficult experiences, not through avoidance. According to Peterson, a culture that prioritizes protection from discomfort risks creating individuals who are intellectually stagnant and emotionally fragile, exhibiting behavior that he describes as dull, stupid, and narcissistic. He warns that this overcoddling mindset not only stifles personal development, but also weakens society's capacity to grapple with complex and uncomfortable truths. Peterson advocates for a shift away from shielding individuals from challenge, urging a focus on cultivating resilience through meaningful confrontation with the difficulties of life.
One thing I mean, your book is fantastic, and one of the rules that I really love is you say, don't let your kids do anything that would make you not like them. That's what I've been thinking for years when I call them the fuck you mom generation. When I see kids, never in life because I never go near a child, but like on TV and movies, I see kids like saying fuck you mom. And I'm like, if somebody who wasn't your child did that, you'd be immensely offended, whereas the parents just take it. What's up with that?
Well, people don't like to admit that they can dislike their children or children in general, and right.
No, I know what you mean. And
but they can.
No, they totally can.
One of the things you see very commonly as a clinical psychologist is family members who hate each other, and who it's like they have their hands around each other's necks for 20 years and are squeezing very slowly, trying to strangle each other. And you see parents who clearly detest their children and have ever since they were born. And part of that, I know it's a terrible way of looking at things, but it's true.
It's so true.
And one of the things...
No, parents confide that in me because I don't have kids.
Yeah, well,
No.
that makes it safe.
They do.
But
Jordan Peterson emphasizes the importance of raising children to be likable, warning that failing to address problematic behavior can lead to social rejection and long-term difficulties. He criticizes the reluctance of many modern parents to exercise authority, often out of fear of stifling their child's creativity or individuality. Peterson argues that this approach is misguided, as appropriate discipline and boundary setting are essential for teaching children respect, self-control, and the social skills needed to navigate the world successfully. Without these foundations, children risk being unprepared for real-life challenges, which can hinder their growth and relationships. Thanks for watching.